Hi, what's your name?
My name's Zayn.
Liam.
Niall. Tomlinson.
I'm Harry Styles.
Okay.
In 2010, 5 teenagers from the UK and Ireland, looking at you, Niall, wanted to take their singing to the next level by auditioning for the British singing competition, The X Factor. Sadly for them, their dreams would be crushed pretty early on when none of them were picked to get past the first stage of the competition. Now, for all intents and purposes, this could have been the end for them. The judges could have just sent the boys home and continued on with the competition, but that's not what happened. While picking the contestants, one of the judges, Nicole Schrenzinger, thought it would be a good idea to put some of the boys together in a group and continue them on in the competition as a band.
Let's do an imaginary boy group if we want to start one, instead of just saying no.
Exactly.
Yes, because they look good
They're
together.
the cutest boy band ever.
Absolutely.
I love it.
Yeah.
The little girls are gonna love them.
This
one right
Yes, absolutely.
He was the standout audition. You don't think he should be over there?
I don't think so. I think that he would definitely shine. He could actually maybe be the leader.
Zayn.
Now that is a good idea.
This
Oh my
is
god.
the-
That's the category I want, just them.
Along with them, the judges also chose a group of girls to advance as well. Once it became time to tell the groups about the news, both of them were absolutely ecstatic.
We think it would be a great idea to have 2 separate groups.
We've decided to put you both through to the judges.
With the group formed, they had to pick a name, and it was Harry who suggested One Direction, and that's what stuck. Moving forward in the competition, they actually did pretty well, advancing all the way to the final round. Side note, for their first performance together as a group, Louis had to miss most of the rehearsal due to getting stung by a sea urchin and having to go to the hospital. Luckily, he was still able to perform, but it's funny to think that One Direction could have never gotten as big as they did because of a sea urchin. Anyway, the boys quickly became a sensation and got all the way to the final round, but unfortunately were eliminated and only got 3rd place in the competition.
The second act, still in the final, is... Rebecca.
Even though they didn't win, Judge Simon Cowell really liked the boys and thought they had potential to be the world's next boy band. Only a month after the band left the X Factor in January of 2011, it was announced that One Direction would be signed to Psycho, Simon Cowell's record label, and they would fly to America to begin production on their debut album. They also released their first book around this time called One Direction, Forever Young, which gave insight about their time on the X Factor. The book was actually named after the song of the same name by the German band Alphaville. If the group won the X Factor, they would have released a cover of this song as their first single, and although it was never officially released, it was leaked onto the internet shortly after the band left the show, and you can find it on YouTube if you really want to. With the release of the book, the band would also host a book signing in March, one of many that they do throughout their career. Anyway, back to the album. They flew to Los Angeles in February where they'd be introduced to and work with several big-name producers and songwriters at the time, including 10-time Grammy-winning producer Red One, who's worked with everyone from Beyonce to Michael Jackson to Rod Stewart. After a few weeks of writing and recording, the band went back to the UK where they began the X Factor Live Arena Tour. This was a tour held a few months after the conclusion of each season, where finalists performed different cover songs across the UK and Ireland. After finishing the tour, the boys continued working on the album in studios across the UK and Sweden. As the hype for the band grew, they released their debut single, What Makes You Beautiful, on September 11th.
Baby, you light up my world like nobody else. The way that you flip your hair gets me over.
This song will gain a huge amount of success for the band, charting #1 on the UK singles chart and #4 on the Billboard Hot 100, further helping to expose the group to an American audience. Part of the reason it did so well in America was due to One Direction's signing with Columbia Records in November. The label wanted to take a less traditional way of promotion, using social media mainly to push the band, as well as appearances in TV shows like iCarly. What Makes You Beautiful would end up winning the group a load of awards, including a Brit Award for British Single of the Year, 2 MTV Video Music Awards for Best Pop Video and Most Share-Worthy Video, and Favorite Song at the Nickelodeon Kids' Choice Awards, among others. Following the wildly popular success of their first single, they continued to drop songs throughout the end of 2011 and the start of 2012, including Gotta Be You in November,
It's gotta be you.
and One Thing in January.
'Cause you've got that one thing. So get out, get out, get out of my head.
Side note, that's one of my favorite songs by them. Anyway, these songs help to show that the band will be diverse in their music, with Gotta Be You taking a much slower and darker approach, and One Thing proved they were still masters at making catchy, upbeat pop songs. Following the release of One Thing, One Direction embarked on the first leg of the Up All Night tour across the UK, playing songs from their upcoming album of the same name. On the Bournemouth date of this tour, the band's first ever live concert DVD was also filmed, which sold extremely well, becoming #1 on multiple music DVD charts across the world. By the way, if you'd like to purchase a copy of Up All Night or any of the other albums I list in this video, the link will be in the description. If you use my link, I get a cut, so I would really appreciate it, and let's get back to the video. With all their international success, the boys began touring outside of the UK, doing an East Coast US tour in February, opening up for fellow boy band Big Time Rush. Shortly after finishing this tour, on March 13th, the band's debut album Up All Night was officially released. Technically, it was originally released back in November, but that was exclusively in the UK and Ireland, so I'm just going to talk about it now. I think this is a very solid debut album. Almost every song on here has an infectious chorus, and One Direction's harmonies are completely unstoppable. Some may think that due to the album's name and cover that it's just a bunch of radio pop songs with immature lyrics, and while some of the songs this may be accurate, there are a couple of edgier moments on the album, like the song More Than This, which was actually released as a single the same day as the album.
'Cause I can love you more than this, yeah.
Commercially, the album was a huge success, charting at #1 on the Billboard Hot 200 and selling 176,000 copies first week. This accomplishment actually landed the band a Guinness World Record for the first UK band to debut at #1 in the US with their debut album. With such a successful album rollout, the band continued their Up All Night tour until the end of June across Australia and North America. With the exception of a few scattered festivals, as well as the honor of performing at the closing ceremony of the London Olympics, this would wrap up the band's touring cycle for the year. They wouldn't be taking any time off though. It's now revealed in an interview that they were already putting finishing touches on their second album, which they've been recording while on tour. For this album, Simon Cowell gathered together some of the best songwriters in the industry, with the likes of Ed Sheeran and Carl Falk, who's worked with all these artists, as well as Rami Yacoub, I'm sorry if I butchered your name, who is one of the top producers in Sweden and worked extensively with the band on their previous album. The One Direction boys also wanted to try their hand at writing for a few more songs, feeling much more confident as musicians this time around.
We just wanted to get, involved with the writing side of things.
Oh, okay.
That was a main thing for this album, and we were quite lucky in the sense that we got 5 songs that we wrote on the album.
I see.
So we just tried to make the songs as personal as we could to our own personal experiences and stuff that we've been going through over the last couple of years.
Some of the songs they co-wrote included Last First Kiss, Back to You, and one of my favorite deep cut songs, Summer Love.
You are my summer love.
On the production side of things, Carl and Rami also played a huge role, having production credits on 6 of the 13 songs. Once the album was finished, the group wasted no time putting out new music, releasing the lead single from the album, Live While We're Young, on September 28th.
Tonight, let's get some and live while we're young.
Much like everything the band seemed to do, the music video for the song actually broke a record for the most viewed Vivo music video in 24 hours with 8.24 million views. They also broke another record with the song, scoring a Guinness World Record for the highest debut by a UK group on the US singles chart, with Live While We're Young peaking at #3 on Billboard. The band also released 2 more singles for the album, with Little Things being a slow guitar ballad that's written about loving a girl through her supposed flaws, and before you ask, yes, Ed Sheeran did co-write the song. The final single, Kiss Me, was actually made a single after the album's release, but it's a solid, catchy pop song. Finally, One Direction's second studio album, Take Me Home, was officially released on November 9th. Like its predecessor, it also charted #1 on Billboard, as well as selling 540,000 copies first week. The album continued breaking records for the band, with them being the only boy band ever to have 2 #1 albums in the US in the same year. Along with this, the album also received numerous awards, including Favorite Pop/Rock Album at the American Music Awards. Critically, it was also received fairly well, minus a few critics who said that the album felt rushed, hence the 1-year gap in between albums, as well as the music being catered to, quote, 8 to 12-year-old female fans. Despite this though, the band continued to find success, embarking on the Take Me Home tour in February of 2013. In 8-month-long arena tour which took them all over the world from the US to Europe to Japan to Australia and more. Interestingly enough, 5 Seconds of Summer actually opened for them on the majority of the dates on this tour, another band which I listen to quite often. If you want to see a 5 Seconds of Summer documentary on the channel, let me know in the comment section below and I may make it. Anyways, when I say this was a successful tour, I mean successful, with it earning a gross $114 million and selling out most of the dates. While on this tour, the group also filmed their second concert documentary titled One Direction, This Is Us, released on August 29th. This DVD focused more on filming the guys when they weren't performing, and gave fans an insight on what the boys are like when they're out of the spotlight. Commercially, the DVD sold pretty well, becoming the 8th highest grossing concert DVD of all time, behind names like Justin Bieber and Michael Jackson. Anyways, back to the music side of things, the band released a new song in February, One Way or Another, Teenage Kicks, a medley of Blondie's One Way or Another, and Undertones' as Teenage Kicks.
Let's go. One way or another, I'm gonna find ya. I'm gonna get you, get you, get you, get you.
They also began work on their third album while they were on tour. For this album, the boys wanted to move away from the more bubbly pop music they were known for and start incorporating more dark and gritty elements into their songs. They worked closely with producer and songwriter Julian Bunetta, who had worked with the band a bit on Take Me Home, and also produced for acts such as Fifth Harmony and Flo Rida. On the writing front, the boys also wrote much more extensively on this album, with at least one member of the band having songwriting credits on 12 of the 14 songs. Leading up to the album, the group began releasing singles, with the lead single Best Song Ever released on July 22nd.
And we danced all night to the best song ever. We knew every line. Now I can't remember.
This song, along with the band's second single, Story of My Life,
Story of my life, I'll take her home. I'll drive all night to keep her warm in time.
charted extremely well, peaking at number 2 and number 6 respectively on Billboard. In September, the band began giving fans more insight on the album, with Zayn tweeting an unlisted video on their YouTube channel of Harry rearranging letters on the ground. Fans put 2 and 2 together, figuring out that the next album title would be Midnight Memories. On November 23rd, leading up to the release of the album, the band also participated in an event called 1D Day, where they hosted a 7-hour-long interactive live stream containing behind-the-scenes footage, new songs from the upcoming album, and even a chance to talk to the boys via Google Hangout. Finally, on November 25th, the band's third studio album, Midnight Memories, was released. It was received pretty well, and personally, this is my favorite One Direction album. Apart from the singles, songs like You and I,
we don't wanna be like them.
Through the Dark, and Right Now, are some of the group's best songs, and the latter two were extremely underrated in their discography. Midnight Memories would also be a turning point for the band's sound, going from mostly upbeat pop songs to a lot of darker, more mature sounding songs, a trend which continued on in the following albums.
Yeah, I think it's taken a slightly rockier tone to it.
Yeah.
How would you describe it, Liam?
Well,
over to you.
Thanks, Louis. Back to the studio. No, we've written on a lot of the songs, which is nice this time. We got a chance to write with a lot of great writers and stuff, but we just made it a bit more edgier, I suppose, but not made it too different. Just subtle changes here and there, so it kind of grows as we grow.
Midnight Memories once again charted extremely well, landing them their third Billboard #1 album and selling 546,000 copies first week, becoming the highest selling album of 2013. The album also got a deluxe edition, which included 4 additional bonus tracks. Closing out the year, the group actually got to do a performance of the title track Midnight Memories on the 2013 X Factor, a fitting tribute that shows how far they came in only 3 years. Going into 2014, the band announced their first autobiography was to be released in September of this year, titled One Direction, Who We Are, Our Official Biography. The book sold very well, becoming the Sunday Times #1 bestseller. Anyways, back to the music front. On April 25th, the band embarked on the Where We Are tour. It lasted until October and was their first full stadium world tour. This tour also gave them a chance to visit some Latin American countries that they never played before, like Peru and Chile. The tour ended up being extremely successful, grossing $290 million and becoming the highest grossing tour of 2014, as well as the 18th highest grossing tour of the 2010s as a whole. They also recorded their third DVD and second live concert DVD, One Direction, Where We Are, the concert film, on the San Siro date of this tour. It was released worldwide in October October, becoming the best-selling event cinema film of all time. The DVD not only included live versions of some of fans' favorite songs, but also behind-the-scenes content of how the tour came together, as well as footage of the band working on their next album. In fact, on September 8th, the band announced that their fourth album, creative name I know, was to be released on November 17th, as well as giving fans a link to a song called Fireproof, which they only posted for 24 hours.
It's been so long, maybe you were fireproof.
For this album, they worked heavily once again with producers Julian Bonetta and John Ryan, who produced and helped to write almost every song on the album. The boys also continued playing a big hand in the writing process, contributing writing credits to 10 of the 12 songs on the album and 2 of the 4 songs on the deluxe edition, although Harry, Liam, and Louis were really the only ones who contributed the most writing credits out of the group. Leading up to the release of the album, they began releasing singles, starting with Steal My Girl on September 29th.
Everybody wanna steal my girl. Everybody wanna take her heart away.
Fun fact, the music video actually features Danny DeVito as a movie director. Anyway, Steal My Girl charted extremely well, peaking at number 13 on Billboard as well as garnering critical acclaim for its 80s sound. The second and final single of the album, Night Changes, was released on November 14th.
Does it ever drive you crazy? Just how fast the night changes.
Although it only peaked at number 31 on Billboard, this song has become one of the band's most popular, garnering almost 1 billion streams on Spotify and 618 million views on YouTube. Harry also cites Night Changes as one of his personal favorite One Direction songs. Another fun fact about the song is the band actually got sued for it. In 2019, a singer named David Lewis Smith sued the boys as well as producers and songwriters Julian Bonetta, Jamie Scott, and John Ryan for copyright infringement. As far as I'm aware, nothing really came out of this lawsuit, but I thought it'd be interesting to mention anyways. On November 17th, 2014, the band's 4th studio album, 4, was released. Much like the previous 3 releases, it shot to number 1 on Billboard and gained the band yet another world record for the first act to debut at number 1 for their first 4 albums. The album sold 142,000 copies first week and was the 6th best-selling album of 2014, being beaten out by artists like Taylor Swift and Coldplay. Critically, the album was received pretty well, with many praising the group's improvement in their songwriting as well as comparing the group to Bruce Springsteen for some reason. Anyway, I personally really like the album, and songs like No Control and 18, written by Ed Sheeran, are classics in their discography, although with lyrics like these, you can definitely tell that 18 was written by Ed Sheeran. Much like Midnight Memories, the album also received a deluxe edition titled the Ultimate Edition, which included 4 new songs, my favorite of which being Once in a Lifetime.
Once in a lifetime, it's just right. We are always safe.
With the album released, the band followed it up with the On the Road Again tour in February of 2015. But unfortunately, only a month into the tour, an event would happen that changed the entire trajectory of the band forever and left every 12 to 17-year-old girl at the time completely heartbroken.
This is a big shakeup for One Direction Zayn Malik.
Which one?
Zayn.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, he's shocking fans by walking away, TJ, from one of the most popular bands in the world. He says he just wants to have a normal life.
I'm sure you've heard the news that Zayn Malik has left the boy band One Direction, saying that now is the right time to leave. Zayn, there's never a right time to leave.
Pop phenomenon One Direction hit a sad note Wednesday when the band announced that one of its members is going in a new direction.
We are gathered here today to announce that Zayn Malik has officially left One Direction.
On March 19th, the band released a statement announcing that Zayn will be flying back to the UK to deal with stress and would not be present for the next couple of shows on the tour. Some fans speculated that the stress was caused by headlines posted days earlier showing Zayn with another girl who wasn't his fiancée at the time, but they assumed that he'd be back on tour in a couple of weeks. Well, it turns out it was much more than that, as only 6 days after leaving the tour, Zayn announced that he would be leaving the band completely. His statement read, "My life with One Direction has been more than I could ever have imagined. But after 5 years, I feel like it is now the right time for me to leave the band. I like to apologize to the fans if I let anyone down, but I have to do what feels right in my heart. I am leaving because I want to be a normal 22-year-old who is able to relax and have some private time out of the spotlight. I know I have 4 friends for life in Louis, Liam, Harry, and Niall. that aged badly, by the way. I know they will continue being the best band in the world. The band later put out a statement on Facebook confirming the news and saying after 5 incredible years, Zayn Malik has decided to leave One Direction. Niall, Harry, Liam, and Louis will continue as a 4-piece and look forward to the forthcoming concerts of their world tour and recording their 5th album, due to be released later this year. Needless to say, fans were absolutely devastated by the news, with many saying that without Zayn, it simply isn't One Direction, and some people even sold the tickets to their upcoming tour dates. Now, I'm sure as you all know, there's a bunch of drama surrounding Zayn and his former bandmates, and I'll be covering all that in a separate video on Zayn's career after One Direction, which I'll link in the pinned comment when it gets uploaded. Anyways, back to the music side of things, the group continued on strong with the tour as a 4-piece. Even with the loss of Zayn, the tour still performed extremely well, selling out almost every date and grossing $207 million, becoming the 2nd highest grossing tour of 2015, only being beaten out by Taylor Swift's 1985 tour. This tour also marked the first time the group got to play in Africa, playing sold-out shows in Johannesburg and Cape Town. While on tour, the band also began working on their 5th and will be their final album, Made in the AM. On the production and writing side of things, the boys stuck with their usual team, along with a few additional big-name producers and songwriters at the time. They also once again featured heavily in the writing themselves, but things were a bit different as the boys knew that this would be the last One Direction project they'd write for a long time. With that being said, they actually wrote and produced the majority of the album's songs as a way to signify how far they've come since Up All Night back in 2011, and they even cited this their favorite album they've ever made.
I think it's our favorite because we had the most involvement in it over the 5 albums. At the start, we were kind of new to it. We didn't really know what we were doing, to be honest. So we were just kind of thrown into the studio, kind of clueless. And over the course of the years, we've learned a lot off the producers and people that we work with. And then, you know, as we've got older, we've kind of written a lot more. And this album, we basically wrote a lot, most of it. So it was, I think that's why we're proud of it. When you're bringing out something, you always feel a bit more proud of it when you're involved in it.
The first single was actually a surprise release months before the album was even announced, when Liam made a tweet saying, "Bit of a surprise, check out our new single. It's called Drag Me Down, and I hope you love it as much as we do," on July 31st.
With your love, nobody can drag me down.
The song charted very well, peaking at number 3 on Billboard and becoming the most popular song on the album by far. It's also got to be in my top 5 One Direction songs of all time. P.S. If you want to see me make a video ranking the One Direction albums or doing a top 10 songs list, let me know in the comments down below. Anyways, less than a month after the song's release, the band officially announced that they'd be taking a hiatus to work on solo material. According to them, it wasn't a breakup, but only a short year or year-and-a-half break since they've been touring and releasing music non-stop for the past 5 years.
I think we just felt like, you know, with the schedule, the way it's been for the last 5 years, as you know.
Non-stop, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. We've been touring for 4 years and we've made 5 albums and it can get quite hectic. So I think we just felt like it was the right time.
You're not going to be out too long, are you? You're not going to be like years and years, are you?
No.
Let's give it 18 months.
Unfortunately, as I'm sure you all know, the 18 months thing was a lie. But back to the music side of things, the boys released the 2nd single of the album, Perfect, on October 15th.
If you like to do the things you know that we shouldn't do, then baby, I'm perfect. Baby, I'm perfect for you.
The song is actually rumored to be about Harry's ex-relationship with Taylor Swift. The two had broken up in the beginning of 2013, but in October of 2014, Taylor released a song on her album 1989 called Style, which many believe was about Harry. Anyways, Perfect performed pretty well, peaking at number 10 on the Billboard Hot 100, becoming their last song to achieve this feat, and breaking the Beatles' record for most songs in the top 10 for a band. The 3rd and final single, History, was released on November 6th, just a week before the album's release. The music video for this song in particular made a lot of fans very emotional, as it cut to earlier clips of the boys throughout the years as sort of a final send-off for the band. Along with these singles, fans who pre-ordered the album also got early listening for the song Infinity. Finally, on November 13th, the band's 5th and final album, Made in the AM, was released. This became their only album to not hit #1 on Billboard, being blocked by Justin Bieber's album Purpose and only peaking at #2. With that being said, though, it still performed extremely well, selling 459,000 copies first week and being well reviewed by critics. Many praised the album for sounding even more mature than their previous releases and comparing their songs to the likes of Coldplay. For me personally, this is probably my least favorite out of their albums, but even with that being said, it's still really good. Even without Zayn, the members still hold their own extremely well on the album, and their voices sound much more distinctive throughout than they did on their previous works. Overall, I think this was a good note to end off on, even if in my opinion it didn't reach the peaks as some of their other albums did. After the release of Made in the AM, the boys played a couple of one-off shows like the Kiss FM Jingle Ball and the BBC Music Awards, as well as making appearances on multiple talk shows like Ellen, Jimmy Kimmel, and Carpool Karaoke with James Corden. Finally, on December 13th, the band played their last live performance in the same place that everything started 5 years ago, the X Factor. After their final performance, their longtime friend and mentor Simon Cowell wished the boys a farewell and good luck on all their future endeavors, and as the boys left the stage for the final time, this marked the end of the biggest boy band that has ever existed. Farewell to the end of an era.